The first time I understood what atmospheric electricity actually meant, I was not in a lab. I was standing outside. It was early evening, the kind of summer night where the air feels almost thick. And I remember holding a simple antenna wire. Nothing special, just copper about 4 feet long. And watching the voltmeter at the other end register something. Not much, but something. From nowhere, from air. That moment changed 8 years of research for me. Because here's the thing. That was not a surprise result. That was expected. That was documented. That was proven in 1899 by a man working out of a converted building in Colorado Springs in the middle of a thunderstorm with equipment he built himself. The surprise was that nobody had told me to expect it. The air around your house is not empty. It never was. Now let me show you what I mean. In the summer of 1899, Nikola Tesla was running experiments at his Colorado Springs laboratory. He was not studying weather. He was studying the electrical properties of the atmosphere itself, specifically the difference in electrical charge between the ground and the upper air above it. He called it the vertical potential gradient. It is not a theory. It is measurable with a basic instrument. The ground holds one charge. The sky holds another. The difference between them is voltage, not metaphorical voltage. Actual, measurable, harvestable voltage. Tesla's notes from that period, and these are public, they are in the Tesla Museum Archive in Belgrade, referenced openly as document readings of several hundred volts per meter of vertical height, per meter. That number has been verified independently by atmospheric scientists. It is not disputed. The Earth's atmospheric electric field is real, well documented, and has been measured continuously since the early 20th century. What Tesla wanted to know was simple. Could you use it? His answer was yes. And the documentation backing that answer is what this channel exists to show you. Here's where I need to stop and tell you something I do not hear other people in this space say. The atmospheric electric field is not a free energy fantasy. It is a real, low-density energy source. That means the challenge is not proving it exists. The science already did that. The challenge is collection and amplification. And Tesla had a working method for both. Some of these energy claims you will find online are overblown. I want to be honest about that. But atmospheric electricity itself, that is not speculation. That is physics. Now let me take you to the specific experiment that changed how I understood all of this. In 1901, a researcher named Hermann Plauson filed a series of patents in Germany and Switzerland for atmospheric energy collection. His methods built directly on Tesla's Colorado Springs work. Plauson was not a fringe inventor. He published through established engineering channels. His 1920 paper, and the full title is available in the German Patent Archive, described collection outputs that, when scaled, were significant. Then the paper went quiet. I spent 3 months trying to locate the physical copies of his 1920 documentation through university archives in Germany. The paper is listed. The catalog entry exists. The year is right. The author is right. But when I requested the physical document from the Frankfurt Archive in 2018, I was told the file was not available for review. No date of unavailability, no explanation, just not there. That happens once. It is administrative. I have now found 9 cases like this across 4 countries. Plauson's work described an antenna system, elevated, large surface area, grounded through a circuit, that could collect the potential difference between the Earth and the lower atmosphere. The principle is the same one operating in every lightning rod ever built. A conductor, a height differential, a path to ground. Lightning rods do not make lightning. They collect existing charge. Plauson's system did the same thing at much lower intensities and used a capacitor bank to accumulate and release what was collected. This is not a device that powers a city. Let me be direct about that, but it is a device that can power a light, a small load, a sensor, a charging system, and in 1920, that was remarkable. Because in 1920, there were still large regions of the world with no grid access at all. Plauson's technology was not competing with the grid, it was operating where the grid did not exist. Here is what I think happened. And I want to be clear, This is my interpretation of a documented pattern, not a proven conclusion. When the grid did reach those regions, it reached them as a monopoly. There was no room for a competing local generation method. The incentive to develop and commercialize Plauson's approach disappeared. Not because the technology was suppressed in the dramatic sense, but because there was no financial infrastructure willing to scale it. J.P. Morgan's investment in alternating current infrastructure meant that the energy economy was already designed around centralized generation and metered distribution. A device that let you collect power from the air above your house did not fit into that model. It still does not. Now let me show you how the basic version of this actually works. You need 4 things: an elevated antenna. This can be a length of copper wire raised as high as you can safely manage, minimum 10 to 12 feet above the ground. A ground stake, copper rod driven into moist soil. A capacitor. This is where collected charge accumulates before you use it, and a rectifier circuit to convert the collected atmospheric charge into usable DC current. That is it. 4 components. The antenna collects the potential difference between the atmosphere and the ground. The capacitor stores it in small increments. The rectifier makes it usable. The output is low. We are talking about milliamperes under normal conditions, not the kind of current that runs appliances. But it is real, measurable output from a source that costs you nothing to access. The science behind it is called the atmospheric electric circuit. It is covered in meteorology textbooks. It is taught in atmospheric physics courses. The Earth has a natural electrical circuit. Charge builds in the ionosphere, dissipates through the lower atmosphere, and returns through the ground. That circuit is always running. Rain reinforces it. Dry weather slows it. But it never stops. Tesla understood this in 1899. Plauson understood it in 1920. The patent record is public. Here is something I want you to sit with for a moment. The atmospheric electric field generates what scientists estimate to be approximately 1 kilowatt per square kilometer of surface area on a calm day. That is a small number by modern energy standards, but the surface area of the Earth is enormous. The total power available in the global atmospheric electric circuit has been estimated in a 1964 paper by atmospheric physicist R.V. Kasemir, available through the American Meteorological Society archive, at roughly 1 gigawatt continuously. 1 gigawatt from the air continuously for free. Not enough to replace the grid, but enough to make you ask why this was never developed in parallel with it. The answer, I think, is the same answer we find in every corner of this research. It could not be metered. And it could not be billed. The air is not a utility company's asset. I have spent 8 years on this question, and what I keep coming back to is not the conspiracy. It is the economics. You do not need a villain in a boardroom to explain why atmospheric collection was never industrialized. You just need to understand that industrialization follows profit, and profit follows metering. Atmospheric electricity cannot be metered by a third party. That is a financial problem, not a scientific one. The device I described earlier, antenna, ground stake, capacitor, rectifier, can be built for under $15 in materials. Full instructions are in the pinned comment below. The output will be small, but the principle it demonstrates is the same principle Tesla documented in Colorado Springs in 1899, and the same principle Plauson patented in 1920, and the same principle atmospheric physicists measure globally every single day. The air around your house contains harvestable energy. That is not a claim. That is documented physics. Now, I want to talk to you directly for a moment. If you have been paying $200, $250, $300 a month for electricity, and this is the first time you're hearing that the atmosphere has had a harvestable electric field the entire time, I need you to understand that this is not an accident. The engineering education system was built around grid-compatible knowledge. What does not serve the grid infrastructure does not get taught. That is not a theory. That is a curriculum decision. You are not behind, you were just not given this information. That is what this channel is here to change. I release a suppressed method every week. Most people who would benefit from this content never find it. Not because it is hidden, but because the algorithm does not push it the way it pushes entertainment. If you found this video useful, subscribe. Share it with one person who pays too much for electricity. And watch the next video in this series. It covers the exact DIY atmospheric harvester build, step by step, with real output measurements. The knowledge was always public. You just had to find the right channel. I'm Dr. Elena Ward. I'll see you in the next file.